We just overemphasized it. She did not value her deliverance. Think about that. All of what Yahweh was trying to do. He destroyed that whole city. Come on here. Destroyed the lots and everything that grew upon the ground. Come on here. Think about that. She did not value her deliverance. That's heavy. Remember Lot's wife? That's what Yeshua said, right? Still working this in reverse. Here's another way to look at that scripture. It says that she looked from behind him, right? Meaning that she looked from behind Lot. This is something that a lot of us do, is that we look behind other people. How many of us are guilty of recalling somebody else's past? I told you, baby, the Spirit gonna bring it all back in. How many of us are guilty of looking into somebody else's past? Come on here. Your friends, your brothers, your sisters, your wife, your husband, your mother, your father. Come on here. You always looking behind them. Come on here, husband and wives. We know of situations like this, and how many of you doing it? You talking and y'all arguing or whatever. Well, what about when you? Well, what about when you? But what about when you did this? You know, you constantly looking behind that person's, back, or looking into their past. You have to be careful, because when you do that, it says in the scriptures that she turned to a pillar of salt. It caused her to be stagnant or stuck in a place. When you look behind somebody else's back and bring up or recall their past, what you do is you open their mind to reconnect to that thing and cause them to be stuck back in the past as well. Whew. So that's something that we have to be careful of. Looking back behind somebody else, recalling their stuff. And also another way to look at that, by position, according to scriptures, it says she looked back from where? Behind him. In other words, his wife was behind him instead of walking next to him. My wife walks right next to me wherever we go. And I got to say this. Look at the Spirit, baby. I got to say this for my men. Come on here. We cannot have our women walking behind us. When my wife and I are out places, just like yesterday, we went for our little walk, get our little exercise on, and a little path on. It's just like traffic. You got one going out and one coming in. And when somebody's coming towards us, my wife already knows to position herself from the side of me to the front of me. Why? Because that puts me in a position that I can best defend her. I got her back at the end of the day. A lot of men are out here jumping out of their car, walking into the building where their wife at, right behind them. A lot of men are walking into the movie theater or into the store where their woman at, right behind them. Going through wherever you going through a crowd, where your wife at, where your woman at, right behind you. Your woman should always be right in front of you so that you can best protect her from that position. Got that? All right, let's keep moving on. So that's heavy. So this is what Yeshua was saying. He wanted us to remember Lot's wife. Why? Because her mind yearned for something that was in the past. She was constantly looking back. So I'm going to say this to you. Whatever it is that you stuck in, come on here. I'm finna give you a bunch of don'ts. Don't look back. Don't write back. Don't text back. Don't messenger back. Don't email back. And just like my wife always says, just don't. Y'all heard of Nike, just do it. What I'm saying to you, just don't. If you want to move forward, you can't keep looking back. Like I said earlier, there's nothing wrong with nostalgia or being nostalgic, as we define a sentimental yearning for happiness felt in a former place, time, or situation. But there's a problem when cognitive immobility is in effect, when you're mentally trapped in your past. So this story teaches us that Yahweh wants us to be a progressive people. Progressive people are programmed not to be connected with regressive people. So what are you talking about, progressive and regressive people? Let's look at this. Progressive people, by definition, are people who favor progress, change, and improvement. So this is what Yeshua, what the Father wants us to be. In contrast, you have regressive people. Regressive people are people who are opposed to change, progress, and improvement, right? They rather return to a former, less advanced state of themselves. That's heavy right there. In other words, they're wishing to maintain things the way they are. This sounds like a lot of religious people. They get so set in their ways and set in the traditions of men, as Yeshua taught against, that they miss the things of Yahweh. They miss the principles and the power that Yahweh is trying to display in their life. So we don't want to be regressive. We want to be progressive. In other words, these are those pharisaical spirited people. I'm going to keep using this word, and eventually it's going to be all over the place. Watch. People, where I get pharisaical from? Yeah, I made it up. Remember, right here. Don't use that word without giving me credit. That pharisaical spirit. Regressive people are backward. They take a step. They're always taking a step backwards. And when you always take a step backwards, when you're constantly doing that, what happens is that you work yourself to a place where you eventually become irrelevant. You see that? So we don't want to be in opposition of the things of Yahweh. You don't want to be in opposition of the progression of Yahweh. How many of you know that the name of Yahweh, when you're in opposition with it, that it'll knock you back? Remember when Yeshua in John 18, when he asked the Pharisees, Judas being with them, whom do you seek? I'm finna paraphrase. They said, we looking for you, right? So Yeshua answered in verse 6, he said, as soon as he said unto them, I am he, they went backward and fell to the ground. A lot of people miss this. This is something heavy. The very name of Yahweh, when you're in opposition with it, it'll knock you back, and not only knock you back, it'll knock you to the ground. So we want to be progressive. We want to be about the things of Yahweh. We want to keep moving forward and not regress and oppose the things of Yahweh. Is that all right? So why do I say all of this, that positive, progressive people are programmed to not be connected to recessive people? Because Lot's wife was not mentioned not one time in the entire Bible. When I said regressive people step back, in other words, they look back, they work themselves into irrelevancy. Lot's wife wasn't even mentioned. But here's a side note, not in the Bible, but according to Jewish traditions, they said that her name could have been Ado, A-D-O, or Edith. Now, Edith, let me work with that name right there. When we think about Edith, the first person came to my mind was the character from All in the Family. And Archie Bunker was notorious for calling Edith what? A dingbat. So when he called her a dingbat by definition means someone who is stupid, silly, or easily confused. So how are you going to use that to work with this? Well, you know, as we broke the scriptures down, we found out that she was an effigy, right? She was a you big dummy. Come on here. She was stationary. Yahweh did A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way to Z for her, and she still looked back. If you doing all of that and Yahweh came, come on, in his mercy to pull you out, come on here. You is stupid. You silly. Come on here. You silly rabbit. Come on here. You easily confused. That's that double-mindedness again. That split in the mind. So that's what Yahweh and Yeshua, he desires that we come up out of that way of thinking. We don't want to be dingbats. Is that right? So she was the only one Yeshua told us to remember. Remember I said that earlier. There was more than 170 named in the Bible. He could have said Eve. Come on, I know Eve had to be like, come on here, I birthed all this. You even came down through me at the end of the day. She could have said that, right? He could have mentioned Sarah. Sarah would probably was like, wait a minute, hold on, I'm 90 years old and I had a baby. Who else done that? Could have said her. He could have said Ruth or Esther. I know they both had to be like, come on, there was whole books written about us. Ain't nobody write no book about Eve. Ain't nobody write no book about Sarah or Naomi or they could have went anywhere they wanted to with it. But look at this. Out of all those books, out of all those women, 170 plus women, he didn't even mention his mama. His mama. Come on, ladies. Think about it. You got sons out there, your daughters or whatever, when they get ready to get up and give thanks for whatever it is. Just be honest with you, in the core of you, you want your son or you want your daughter to mention you. But he didn't mention them. He mentioned one nameless person who wasn't even named in the Bible. Remember Lot's wife. That's all they knew about is Lot's wife. So watch this. The Bible said she turned into a pillar of salt. So when she became a pillar of salt, that means that she was calcified. And calcified, by definition, is a process in which calcium, watch this, builds up in body tissue, causing the tissue to harden. In other words, she became inflexible and she became changeless. And that's a problem with a lot of us when we get stuck in our old ways. Come on here. The tissue becomes hardened. How many knows that the tissue itself is supposed to be soft? It's supposed to be malleable. It's supposed to be bendable and flexible. And what happens is that a lot of us are so hard, so stiff, and so brittle. Come on here. When the Father tries to bend us, we snap. That's not where you want to be. You want to be in a place where you're flexible. Come on here. You want to be able to adapt to change. So when we keep looking back and lingering, we'll be stuck in a place where we don't realize we're only supposed to pass through. This mindset means that you desire, or your desires are greater than God's desire for your life. The irony of this whole story is that Lot's wife became the very substance that Yeshua said that we are. You don't believe me? All right. Well, go with me real quick to Matthew 5:13. Matthew 5:13. He said, ye are the salt. Ye. Ye are the salt of the earth. But if the salt have lost its savor, wherewith shall it be salted? It is thenceforth good for nothing. Look at that. So Yeshua told us to become the very thing that he told us. Remember Lot's wife? I'm going to keep saying it like that. She became a block. She became hardened, unchangeable, stuck in the past. But he told us to become this salt. Now, salt is a substance that's been used for centuries as a preservative throughout the whole world. Well, you might ask, what is a preservative? A preservative, by definition, is a substance used to preserve things against decay. So in other words, what Yeshua was saying, I want you to be the salt of the earth, meaning that I want you to preserve, the earth, right? So if we're going to preserve the earth, we got to understand the synonyms of the word preserve. So Yeshua is saying he wants us to not only preserve the earth, to protect it against decay. He wants us to protect it, to defend it, to restore it, to sustain, to rebuild, to guard, to service. Look at this, support and heal. So this is what he desires for us. He says that ye are the salt of the earth. And when you look up the word earth there, it's a Greek word that means country. Come on here. So we're talking about the earth country versus the heaven country. So Yeshua desires that we be the salt of this earth so that we preserve the people that's in it. Come on here. We don't want them to perish. We don't want them to rot. We don't want them to decay. So we do that by protecting them, defending them, building them up, restoring them. You see what I'm saying? So that's what he desires us to be. Come on here. He wants us to protect those that's in this country for the purpose of what? They're transitioning to the next country. What country are you talking about? The country that my wife's favorite, the Apostle Paul, spoke about in the book of Hebrews, chapter 11:16. He said, but now they desire a better country, that is, in heavenly, wherefore God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he hath prepared them a city. So this country that we're talking about, come on here, is the kingdom of heaven. Come on here. He wants us to preserve those that's in here, preserve your brothers and your sisters, your family, your husband and your wife, your friends, this world. He wants us to preserve this earth for those people that's moving forward into the next country. Is that all right? So by comparison, again, remember Lot's wife. She was hardened salt, a block of salt, a pillar of salt, a statue, right? An effigy, useless, but he wanted us to be salt. When you think about salt, the consistency of it, we think about the looseness of it, right? The grains of it, it's fine, right? It can get into the substance of things. It can get down and permeate the very essence of something. Now that I got it right this time, you know what I'm talking about. When you season something, come on here. You drop that seasoning there. You got a choice. You can take that block salt and drop it in there. Ugh, you know, nobody want to do that because that ain't going to break down there. But that seasoning salt gets down into the essence of the very being of what it is. So that's why Yeshua wants us to be this salt, to be this preservative. Look, again, it's fine. So here it is now. I'm finna have my little church moment. Look at your neighbor, wherever you at right now, and say, neighbor, neighbor, you sure is fine. Is that all right? All right, well, let's move on. So people regress because of insecurity, fear, and anger. In essence, individuals revert to a point in their development where they felt safer and when stress was non-existent. It is a state, in this state, you tend to act in ways that are overly sensitive. How many people are overly sensitive? Meaning your reaction does not fit the event. You find yourself overreacting to something someone says or does. So you ask yourself, how do I know if I'm in this regressive state? I'm glad you asked. Here are some signs. Are you somebody that's always crying, whining about something, mumbling under your breath, not talking, throwing tantrums when you're not getting your way, or verbally abusing people? If you're doing these things, that means that you're in a childlike state. Come on here. When I was a child, I thought as a child, I spake as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. So when you're a recessive individual and you're in this childlike state, what you have to be careful of is cognitive immobility is taking place in your life, and it harms you. How does it harm me? Well, it harms you by preventing you in your mind from enjoying the present. It stops you from moving on as Yahweh wanted us to do and make new memories. It stops your creativity. It also creates negative emotions such as regret and anger. Look at this. It clouds your judgment and impairs your decision making. Look at this. There's many more, but I'm going to give you this last one. It stops the ability to embrace change. Come on here. We said that when we broke down Lot's wife. Come on here, that she was not pliable. She wasn't bendable. She was always taking a step back. So we said that Lot's wife was a paradigm. She was an example of something that happens when you constantly look back. Well, what I want to give you is what's called a paradigm shift. Well, what is that, John? Well, glad you asked that too. A paradigm shift, by definition, is an important change that happens when the usual way of thinking about or doing something is replaced by a new and different way. So here's the paradigm shift, the tools. Y'all know I like to give y'all tools. And I'm be honest with you, my wife inspired this. Got to give her some honor. When you do a message, like she said, and I believe my wife is super intelligent. I love that about her. When you do a message, you got to be able to have tools. How can you give somebody all of this word and then they not leave with something that help them to rebuild, to repair, to restore? You see what I'm saying? Who they are. We got more tools than Pep Boys bars. So I got 6 tools for you. And guess what? I might even give you a bonus one. Tool number 1. Turn towards the difficulty. Moving forward can sometimes sometimes be scary. Just change direction. So what this means is if you headed to the left and you know that that's the direction that you're not supposed to be headed to, change is what people fear. Change, going into a new place, is what people fear, because what they were in is there was comfortable and they were used to it. But Yahweh is saying just turn towards what's difficult. Turn towards the change. That's all you got to do. That's tool number 1. Remember, like I said in the last message, eyes, head, body. Got it? Tool number 2, make a decision. Prophet Elijah. Here it is. I know it sounds like a colloquialism that you done heard a lot of times. If you want something different, you got to do something different. Make a decision. How long halt ye between 2 opinions? Come on here. Choose Yahweh. This is all I'm saying to you. Make a decision. Tool number 3, don't beat yourself up. Why? Because this only adds to the stuckness. Yeah, stuckness, I said it. This only adds to the stuckness. When you beat yourself up, I wish I didn't do that. Why did I go through that? I'm sick of this right here. But every time you beating yourself up around something, about something, it's just adding to you being stuck in that place. So what I'm saying to you is encourage yourself. Like Bob Marley said in this song, lively up yourself. Don't beat yourself up about it. That was tool 3. Tool number 4, here it is. Do it with others. Get with people that's making progress. Come on here. Get with the movers and shakers. Y'all like my little moves there? Come on here. And I'm talking about in the things of Yahweh. Get with people that's doing positive things. Come on here. Like I said, get with people that's the salt of the earth. Come on here. That's desiring to protect, to defend, to restore, to sustain. Come on. People that want to rebuild. Come on here. People that want to support you. Come on here. People that want to heal you. Get with those type of people that's making changes in their life. Don't stay stuck with people that ain't doing nothing. You got to realize that you're a sum of the people that you're with. Birds of a feather. Do I need to finish that one? All right. Do it with others. That was 4. 5, make small changes. In other words, don't just go cold turkey. In other words, small changes equals small victories. So let's just say you're a person that's always watching negative shows on TV. You got like 10 of them that you like to watch all the time. I ain't telling you today I'm finna stop watching all this stuff. Some of us can do that, but I'm saying for the majority of us, make small changes. Say today, you know what? I'm not going to watch 4 of those 10 shows. Make small changes. All right? Because small changes equals small victories, and small victories end up being greater victories. So that was tool number 5. Tool number 6, progression, not perfection. Remember, we're not perfect. So you miss doing 4 days of what you need to do. What I need you to do is to focus on the 3 days you did and keep making progress and let go of the small misses that you made. Keep putting one foot in front of the other. Come on here. Into the right direction, in the direction of the kingdom of Yahweh. This connects you to tool number 5, the small changes that I talked about. Come on here. One foot in front of the other. Progression, don't regress. It's not the time to moonwalk in the things of Yahweh. It's time to move forward. Is that all right? All right. Well, I'm finna close it. Oh, yeah, that's right. I said I'm going to give y'all probably a bonus one. So 6 I gave y'all. 6 represents the number of man. So I gave you 6 tools for the man. Come on here. To fix the man. But now I'm finna give you number 7. And what does number 7 represent? Completion. There go my wife back there, my live studio audience. Come on here. Here's tool number 7. Philippians, her favorite person, the Apostle Paul said this. Philippians 3:13. Brethren, I count not myself to be apprehended, but this one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind and reaching forth unto those things which are before. Look at that. Even the Apostle Paul is in agreement with what I'm talking about. He's in agreement with what Yeshua was talking about. Remember Lot's wife? See that? He's in agreement with that, forgetting those things. So Yeshua told us to remember her, to rehearse that. Like I was telling you, we rehearse it for the purpose of improving our performance later. But his forgetting here is the Greek word that means to superimpose. And when you superimpose something, by definition, it means to, let's just say this is the thing right here. To superimpose means to place or lay one thing, my right hand over my left hand, over the other, typically to show that both are still evident. So what is this? What the Apostle Paul is saying to us, my right hand is over my left hand. You can see my right hand, which has changed, and you can still see my left hand, which is the past. This is the way that we testify and that we witness to other people by showing them, hey, I've been there, but I changed. So this is how we witness. We superimpose that thing. So there's nothing wrong with, come on here, being nostalgic, but don't get caught up in cognitive immobility with it. Separate yourself from that thing. Put distance between that thing. Is that all right? Well, there it is. Remember Lot's wife. Remember, you don't want to be a person that's regressive. You don't want to be a person who's stuck in the past. You don't want to constantly be looking behind your friends, your family members, your husbands, your wife, bringing up their past, being regressive people. It's time for us to be progressive people, always moving forward and abounding in the things of Yahweh. So let's just keep moving forward. And I got to say this, if this message has blessed you or any of the previous messages blessed you, pass it on to somebody. Be the salt of the earth. Come on here, season it, season that thing so that person can be blessed. And when you give it to them, tell them the same thing. Take that salt if it blessed them and bless somebody else with it so that we can be the salt of the earth. Because one thing about salt, it ain't just that one grain, it's millions of grains that make that change. And I hope that you enjoyed this message. This is back in the day when I was young. I'm not a kid anymore, but some days I sit and wish I was a kid again. That song cool, but remember, when I was a child, I think as a child and I spake as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. Shalom.